Speck by golden speck, the rainforest of Venezuela is giving up a fortune. An army of prospectors has descended on the jungle, tearing into it wherever they think there is gold. Their work leaves a desert landscape. The rainforest will be very slow to recover this. And the mining pushes out tribes of rainforest Indians who claim this land as their own, who are shocked by contact with a rowdy work camp culture, and who have sometimes been killed for refusing to move out.
My name is Alfredo Til. I am 32 years old. I am a small-scale miner in Venezuela.
Gray-haired and scarred despite his youth, Alfredo Til endures a bone-jarring ride just to get to his claim site. There, workers are organized by task: diggers, baggers, rock pounders. Full speed ahead in the equatorial heat.
When the first of these diggers found gold, the news set off a huge rush to this area until there were 20,000 miners in this part of the country, many of them migrants coming here from other nations. They can swarm onto a gold strike in an instant because all they carry are hand tools like picks and shovels and sledgehammers to smash the ore into smaller bits. And when the gold runs out in one spot, they move on in search of the next.
And this is what they leave behind. Soil too barren for the jungle to grow back, and water poisoned with toxic metals. Sometimes they leave fallen comrades, miners killed in accidents or in violence.
These are shotgun pellet marks you see on me.
Alfredo Til says he was shot in the back by miners who thought he was jumping their claim.
They wanted to kill me. You see this? This was to kill me. They shot from behind and from in front, even before I could dodge.
The lawlessness extends to the shantytown miners built for themselves. At night, fast cash often goes to rounds of pool and prostitutes, to booze and drugs. Night is when miners mill the gold out of their ore, grinding the rock to powder, adding water, washing the mix across copper plates coated with mercury. Chemical attraction to the mercury pulls out the gold. Alfredo's 20 sacks of ore, an entire day's work, yield only a few grains of gold, worth $18. But for many Venezuelans, that would be 3 days' pay. The mills and the mining town are crowding the original inhabitants of this jungle, Paymon Indians. The Indians have tried to keep miners from digging up their land or from dumping mercury, which is toxic, into their streams. But they know a nearby tribe was massacred for resisting. And even if there's no violence, they believe their culture is under siege by the miners' freewheeling ways. Eusebio Salazar is a Paymon leader.
There are many problems. The permanent pushing out of the indigenous community by invasion of the miners, the influence of superficial things like prostitution, alcohol, and all those things that make such a big impact on us that we must confront.
The small miners remind the Paymon of invaders from deeper in their past.
Previously, Christopher Columbus was the one who came to our continent, and now it's the miners who are invading without respect to our indigenous community, without respect for our land.
Columbus made it to the Venezuelan coast, but it was conquistadors who searched farther inland for gold. The conquistadors never found it, but in their frustration, they inflicted misery on the Indians. Now, the Paymon know where the gold is and pan for it in small operations they say won't disturb the rainforest.
Looks like it has a pretty high pyroxene content. It's not necessarily significant, but it's new.
Not far from the Paymon, geologists working for one of the world's biggest mining companies analyze samples taken from the pits abandoned by small miners like Alfredo Thiel. They believe there's much more gold there, deeper. The government agrees. It is giving contracts to international companies to work large claims in the rainforest.
We think that this is probably going to be the largest gold mine in South America, at least.
Brooke MacDonald and Phil Morris of Canadian mining giant Placer Dome, which won the contract for one of Venezuela's most promising sites. They say the government wants the royalties and taxes that big companies will pay, taxes small miners evade. They've budgeted to do other things the small miners don't, such as reclaim land destroyed by mining. And they've spent $1.5 million already studying the environment and the culture of the Indians.
This is going to be developed, and it's just a question of who develops it and how.
It's not that the local community don't want gold mining, it's just a question of whether they want it in a controlled manner with a multinational mining company.
This is a question of how. It is too late to put the genie back in the bottle. It's way too late. The country has to decide whether it's going to have a few companies that can mine in an environmentally responsible manner, or whether it's going to allow the continuation of a chaotic, environmentally destructive situation to go on.
And if Venezuela's government thinks big companies with deep pockets will be better at preserving what they find here, so too does Jose Cifuentes of the Paymon Indians.
The small miners affect us more than the big companies because the small miners do not have contracts. They invade our lands.
But so do some big companies working on property the government promised both to them and to Indian tribes, the same land. So the Paymon are filing for clear title to their land, deeds that would protect them from any intrusion. Getting them could take years. Which means that, except for the good intentions of one international company, little has changed in the rainforest from the time when outside explorers dispossessed and even enslaved Indians in their search for gold.